Whiteblack the Penguin Sees the World by Margaret and H.A. Ray. Whiteblack the Penguin was worried. He was the chief storyteller on Station 1's. Spelled backwards, it read snow, the radio station for all Penguin Land, and he had run out of stories. "I guess I'll take a vacation and travel," he said. "Travelers always have lots of stories." His friends Seal and Polar Bear agreed. "But you'll need a boat," said Seal. "You can't swim all the time. I'll give you half an old sealskin. It will make a fine boat." "And I," said Polar Bear, "I'll give you rope made from the hair of my last winter's fur." "Ropes are always useful." "That's wonderful," said Whiteblack. "Besides, I've always wanted a boat and a rope." So he began to build the boat, and with all the family helping, it was finished in no time. Whiteblack was ready for his trip. Everybody waved farewell to him. "Come back with plenty of stories," barked Seal. "And bring us nice presents," said Polar Bear. "I promise," shouted Whiteblack. "Goodbye." The boat moved away from the shore, and soon he was alone on the wide blue ocean. Hours went by, and not much happened. Sometimes Whiteblack swam pulling the boat behind him, and sometimes he sat in the boat using his flippers as paddles. "I thought traveling was more exciting," he said. Feeling bored, he fell asleep. Crack! He awoke to a heavy shock. His boat had hit an iceberg. It was sinking fast. "I hate to lose my boat," he said, "but at least this is a story for my radio show. Besides, I've always wanted to be in an accident." He untied the rope just as the boat went under. He then tied it around his middle and swam on. After a while, Whiteblack saw smoke on the horizon. There was a cruiser steaming straight towards him. "I'll go on board and look at this ship," he said. When the cruiser was close enough, he lassoed a gun and climbed on board. Everything aboard the cruiser was clean and shiny, and Whiteblack was pleased. On deck was one of those famous human beings he had heard so much about. "I've always wanted to see a man, but I thought he'd look more unusual," Whiteblack said. "Why, he looks just like me. White shirt, dark coat, and he walks on 2 legs, only he's got lovely bright buttons on his jacket. I'll go ask him to let me have a few for my Sunday suit." Just then the officer and some sailors discovered the little penguin and started chasing him. He ran away as fast as he could and hid in the muzzle of a big gun. "I hope I'm safe here," he thought. "It's a nice cool place for a long nap." The next morning, the sailor started practicing with the gun where Whiteblack was sleeping. Boom! He went through the air like a thunderbolt, and miles away he dived into the sea. "This is a real story for my radio show," he said when he came up. "Besides, I've always wanted to fly." He saw land in the distance and swam ashore. This must be a foreign country. He climbed up the beach. "I suppose it's full of stories for my radio show. Besides, I've always wanted to visit a foreign country." The place was quite different from Penguin Land. There was no snow or ice, but there were bright flowers and fresh green plants everywhere. The air was warm, a little too warm for Whiteblack's taste. But look at the 2 big white balls laying there. They couldn't be snowballs, or could they? Perhaps footballs, he thought. Besides, I've always wanted to play football. He kicked one ball with his foot. Crick! The ball broke in 2 and out came a baby ostrich. "Thanks for letting me out of the egg," he squeaked. "Won't you please get my brother out too?" So Whiteblack hit the second egg and another baby ostrich appeared. "I've always wanted to see baby ostriches come out of their eggs," Whiteblack said. "It's a very rare experience and a fine story for my radio show." That moment, Father and Mother Ostrich arrived. "What a pleasant surprise," they said. "Won't you accept a little present?" Mother Ostrich gave him a lovely mirror, and Father Ostrich produced a roller skate. "Thanks," said Whiteblack. "Now I must go because I'm on a trip collecting stories for my radio show." "Wait," said Father Ostrich. "The desert is hard to travel for somebody with such short legs. Pardon me for saying so. I'll give you a letter of introduction to my friend the camel. He'll let you ride on his back." Whiteblack took the letter and walked into the desert. It was like the beach in Penguin Land, only warmer. Soon he met the camel. The camel was very glad to have company, for the desert is such a lonely place. I provide the ferry service across the desert, the camel said, and I charge a small fee, but because of that letter I shall carry you for free. The camel knelt down and Whiteblack climbed on its back. Another good story for my radio show, he said. Besides, I've always wanted to ride on a camel. At first, Whiteblack liked the ride, but after a while he had a funny feeling in his stomach. With every step, the camel's back moved up and down, and he felt he was going to be seasick. This would not make a good story for my radio show, he thought, and besides, I never wanted to be seasick. Penguins are not supposed to be seasick, ever. Finally, he could not stand it any more. He asked the camel to please let him off. Now he had to walk through the hot desert again for hours and hours. I wish I were home, he sighed. Besides, I've never wanted to be lost in the desert. I must get out of here somehow. Suddenly he had an idea. He picked up a stick, and with his rope he tied it to the roller skate. It made a perfect scooter. It even had a rear view mirror. He rolled along smoothly all the way to the end of the desert. Now I've got enough stories for my radio show, he decided. I want to go home. If I only knew which way to go. Why, there's a plane over there. Maybe there's somebody who can tell me how to get back to Penguin Land. And there was. An explorer was quite surprised to see the little penguin. I'm leaving tomorrow, he said, and I can give you a lift. The explorer made a little carrier for Whiteblack, and because no animals were allowed inside the plane, the carrier was fastened on top. I've always wanted to ride on top of an airplane, said Whiteblack. Now I'm on my way home. The plane took off and flew over towns and rivers and fields and forests, and finally it reached the ocean. It's getting cooler, thought Whiteblack. I can feel we are coming closer to Penguin Land. I must try to have a look. Besides, I've always wanted to have a look at Penguin Land from the air. He managed to open the door of his carrier and walked out to have a better view. He bent over and swoosh! Down he went head first, and splash! He plumped into the sea. When he recovered from his fall, he looked around. He was curious. There were fish right and left and everywhere. He had never seen so many fish in his life. Suddenly, he and all the fish were lifted out of the water. He had fallen into a fishing net, and the net was being pulled in. Together with everybody else, Whiteblack was dumped into the hold of a fishing boat. Not a bad place, he said to himself. Lots of fish, lots of ice, just the right temperature. Now I can make up for all the meals I've missed during my trip. So he had 10 breakfasts, 10 lunches, 10 dinners, and 10 suppers all in one. And every course was fish. He was just ready for a nap when he heard a fisherman upstairs say, "Over there lies Penguin Land." Penguin Land! He was almost home, and yet he had no present for his friends. I must bring something, he said. What can I do? And then a wonderful idea came to him. At night, when everybody was asleep, he climbed on deck. He took one of the big nets that were hung up to dry and jumped into the sea. His idea worked. As he swam toward Penguin Land, dragging the net behind him, fish were caught in it. Soon the net became quite heavy. I don't mind, he thought. I'm on my way home, with stories to tell and a marvelous present. The morning came, and he could see the shores of Penguin Land far away. But the net was so heavy now that he hardly made any headway. I must get home with my present, he panted. I must! But his strength was almost gone. He would have to let the net go and come home empty-handed. He just had to give up. Tears were coming to his eyes. Whiteblack? Hello, Whiteblack! Shouted a happy voice. It was Seal, his good friend Seal, who came rushing through the waves to help him. I've been looking out for you every day. I'm so glad you are back. What a marvelous present you brought. And he took the heavy load from Whiteblack. Hooray! There was a big crowd on the beach to welcome the famous traveler. That same day, they had an enormous party with mountains of fish for everybody. Whiteblack had a special radio show on station WONS, and he had to tell all his stories over and over again. And out of snow, his friends built a big monument and wrote on it, Whiteblack, the hero of Penguin Land. And since in Penguin Land the snow never melts, the monument is still there. You can go yourself and see it. The end.